Can everybody hear me? All right, fantastic. The 5:30 Administration Public Works hearing is called to order. Could I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Present.
Councilmember Newsma.
Here.
Councilmember Suffredin.
Here, 5 members being present, we have a quorum. Our next item is approval of the minutes of the Administration Public Works Committee meeting of May 27th, 2025.
With one amendment that was noted in communication to staff, I will make the motion to approve those minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Newsma, seconded by Councilmember Harris. So this is approval of the minutes with the one correction that has been noted to staff. Let's go ahead and vote.
What? My light.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. It said that I voted, and if I did vote, I should not have because I wasn't. Nope, wrong meeting. Sorry. I'm good.
Okay. All right, fantastic. We'll go ahead and do a roll call just in case you want to.
Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin.
Aye. All right, so on a vote of 5-0, those minutes have passed. That brings us to public comment. We have 5 people signed up for public comment. Is there anybody signed up in person?
Nobody signed up in person.
Nobody signed up in person. So people who have signed up online to speak. Oh, yeah, you're in, Tina.
I signed up online for in person.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
You're cool. You're at the bottom of the list, though. All right, so everyone will get 2 minutes. Our first speaker is Mary Rosinski. Mary, are you in the Zoom?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
All right, you have 2 minutes, Mary.
Oh, I don't know.
Friendly 2 minutes, but you have 2 minutes.
Okay. I am talking about the 801 Main Street. I am wondering why we would be pursuing that when we are still, we had a lawsuit against it for property violations. I know a week or so ago, I FOIA'd those violations, and I think that the staff should inform everybody, public and council, of any litigation that's going on with the property. I also want to know if everyone's read our policy on purchasing public property, and we have many options that we can do before using taxpayer dollars to buy a property that we do not have a plan for. And it seems incredibly irresponsible to be doing this, unless there is a plan, in which case we should disclose it. So I'm wondering, I know there is within our own code the ability, after issuing violations, to eventually get to a fine where it's $750 per day for each fine that hasn't been. There are many options we can do before we go spend money on this land. And I'm just would like you guys to discuss what options you took before that. So I don't think it's a proper use of money how it was presented now. If there's a better plan, if it was part of a redevelopment project that we had discussed, and it just seems so contradictory to our putting assets to work where we are selling valuable property. So I will be looking forward to listening to the discussion on this, but please don't buy this property without proper procedure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. I appreciate it. That brings us to Sharimer Chivanes.
Yes. Good evening, members of the
I hope I was close on your name. I
Public Works
apologize.
team. Yes.
right.
It was actually perfect. Thank you.
You have
All
2
right.
minutes.
Well, my name is, thank you. My name is Sherman. I'm the Associate Director of Advocacy with Joining Forces for Affordable Housing. And I'm here to express our support for Resolution 54, R-25, and the proposed acquisition of 801-809 Main Street. You know, this is a rare and important opportunity for the city to proactively invest in a site with significant potential for mixed income housing development, which is something our community urgently needs. And this is an ideal location, right? It's near public transit. It's walkable to businesses and services. It sits at the heart of a vibrant, diverse corridor. And from a planning and policy standpoint, this resolution reflects the values and vision that are taking shape through Envision Evanston 2045. And so this is a clear and actionable step the city can take to ensure that Evanston remains a place where people of all incomes and backgrounds can live and thrive. And so we urge that this committee move the resolution forward, ensuring the city is well positioned to steward this opportunity in a way that reflects Evanston's values and vision. Thank you so much for your time and for your leadership.
All right, thank you. Next up is Robert Keating.
Thank you. As a Main Street resident, I support the plan to use TIF funds in acquiring 801 Main. I think the best way the city can provide affordable housing is getting site control and working with community partners to develop a building here instead of leaving it up to the private market. Projects like Lot 1 or Church and Darrow are great examples of how this has been done in our community, and a similar development at Church and Sherman would be in a prime location near Metro and CTA for access to jobs in our region. It would also be close to the lakefront and would provide more customers for businesses on the main Dempster Mile. So this is the exact type of area we need to be developing affordable units to ensure we have economically integrated neighborhoods. If the city does not purchase this for a future affordable housing development, I think a private developer will jump at the chance, and we'll see 5/1 with predominantly expensive luxury units on this site when we could have had something better if we were calling the shots. With work beginning soon on the strategic housing and putting assets to work plans, the opportunity to buy this parcel should not be passed up so that it can be part of those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to Scott Roberts.
Good evening. My name is Scott Roberts. I'm a resident of the Third Ward, but I spent many years living just down the block from 801 Main Street. I'm very familiar with the area. It's been an eyesore and a safety hazard in the neighborhood for far too long. If you've seen this property, it's like traveling back in time or into Skokie. The property has mold and structural issues, and it drags down the block's energy. If the city steps in to take control, we can finally turn the blight into an asset the neighborhood could be proud of. Better yet, when paired with the adjacent city-owned parking lot, it creates a much more enticing development opportunity. This would result in opportunities for locally owned small businesses, ground floor shops or cafes that activate the street, with the departments above that include affordable homes for families earning between 30% and 80% of area media income. This model isn't untested. Take a look at Lot 1 South Boulevard Shores project, where 60 affordable units are under construction. It also dovetails perfectly with all the other upgrades that are happening in the Main Street area and takes something that's going to hold that down and drag it down and turns it into a positive. Best of all, it's paid for with the TIF funds, so it's not coming out of our budget. It's, hopefully it will turn into a positive and not cause more budget problems. We know that affordable housing is anti-capitalist, and it's the only way that it's going to happen is with involvement from the government. This seems like such an obviously positive, good thing that I don't even see why it's controversial. So please, let's just do the right thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. All right, Tina, you're up.
Good evening, I'm Tina Payton. I actually own a property for 71 years, a half a block from 801 Main. And yes, I agree that the property is in bad shape. The city went to court, I don't know the results. But we should stop giving property owners who are in violation money. This, you're talking about $735,000 for a condemned property. And this is the same as Emerson and Jackson. You awarded the woman almost $2 million and she had 7 dilapidated properties for years. The city needs to stop buying property without public participation. A couple of mentions at a ward meeting does not mean public participation. You should get a card like this and inform all the neighbors within 500 feet or 1,000 feet, whatever you have it at now. And we should be able to come to this arena and have public comment about what happens in the neighborhood. It should not be up to you all. If you all are representing us, then we should have a say. And I think that if it's a certain amount of money, you definitely should have the citizens vote. I also wanted to know, and I asked the alderman, which I didn't get a good answer. There was a black hair salon and a black nail salon that were displaced. Were they given any relocation money? Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. All right. That concludes public comment and brings us to the consent calendar. I believe items A7 and A9 have been requested to be removed. Is there anything else that anybody would like to remove? All right. Well, then, do I have a motion on the consent calendar with the exception of items A7 and A9?
Mr. Chairman, I will move the consent agenda minus items A7 and A9.
Second.
All right.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin.
Aye. On a vote of 5-0, the consent calendar minus items A7 and A9 passes. That brings us to item A7. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move, so I don't move specifically for A7 or like the action as written. I guess like, do I make the motion and then amend it? Like okay, so fine, I'll make the motion.
Make a motion to reconsider the previous vote, and then there'll be another motion to follow.
Okay, great. Then I'm going to make a motion to reconsider.
All right. Is it?
I will second.
Okay. It's been moved by Councilmember Davis, seconded by Councilmember Nusma. Any discussion? Seeing, now I'm seeing a lot.
If I would like the.
Councilmember Kelly, then Nusma.
So, go ahead if you'd like.
All right, Councilmember Nusma, then Kelly.
I will go ahead right now and make the case for acquisition of this property, even though that's not what we're voting on explicitly with this motion to reconsider. But yeah, I think acquiring this.
So why don't we do the motion to reconsider first, because we're out of order if we're doing. Is there any discussion on the motion to reconsider?
So I did have a question about the motion to reconsider. I had understood, and I believe in the past, I've even made motions to reconsider at the same meeting because that was something that we changed last term, which I didn't particularly like or think was appropriate. So I'm surprised now to see a motion to reconsider coming back at a subsequent meeting. In the rules, it just states at the same meeting. It doesn't say council meeting. So,
Councilor Ruggie, do you want to weigh in on that?
Thank you, Chair Suffredin, members of the APW Committee, Alex Ruggie, Corporation Counsel. So in 2021, the City Council determined that the City Council rules apply to the City Council meetings and declined to have the standing committees adopt them. So standing committees do not follow City Council rules. They defer back to Robert's rules.
okay, thank you. Though it is, standing committees are listed in the rules, but okay.
Yeah, the
right, good
rules establish the standing committees. That's correct.
Okay, so on the motion to reconsider, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion to reconsider?
We wouldn't be perhaps reconsidering this, or we wouldn't have to reconsider this if we had fully considered it last time. I made the mistake of not making the public pitch.
Is this on the motion to reconsider, or should we just do the motion to reconsider right now?
If this passes, I'm going to be happy, then I can make the pitch. If this doesn't pass, then we will not have the ability to have this discussion publicly, so.
Okay, so on the motion to reconsider.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin.
Aye. All right. So we have made the motion to reconsider. Is there any discussion on the underlying resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the purchase of 801, 809 Main? Councilmember Nusma, followed by Davis, and then Kelly.
Thank you.
Chair, I think we still need a motion on A7, though.
All right, so I
We never got the motion. Okay.
I will make the motion on this item, which is Resolution 54R25, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the purchase of 801 to 809 Main Street.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second it.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Nusma, second by Councilmember Davis. Now let's go into discussion. Councilmember Nusma.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will now make the case for using TIF funds to acquire this property. This is really kind of a textbook example of the use of TIF funds to acquire a blighted and troublesome property and turn this into a neighborhood asset. This property has been troublesome for years in the neighborhood, and in and of itself, on its 8,900 square feet, it doesn't represent a too terribly attractive redevelopment opportunity. It's been on the private market for several months and nothing has happened. So this does align with what's been going on Main Street over the last several years. We recently completed our streetscape project. The Tapestry Station project is right across the street. We have a new development on Custer Street. We've got a dog park coming down at Gray Park at the corner of Main Street and Maple. What we have now in a blighted property of 801 Main Street is, an incomplete project. So if we acquire this project using TIF funds, we can package it together with the adjacent city parking lot, which is an additional 17,000 square feet. It becomes a much more attractive redevelopment opportunity. And then the city owning this property can control its destiny. It's not on the property, up to the market to come to us with some kind of proposed high-rise development. It's up to the city to say, here's what we want, and find somebody to build it for us. And what I envision is a community engagement process to bring the neighbors together and kind of decide what we would like to see in that community. I have my ideas. I would like to hear what the community wants. But just to share my ideas, I want something that kind of fits in with the skyline on the north side of Main Street, so no taller than what's already there. I envision ground floor retail, especially out that corner. It's important to keep that corner activated. I envision some kind of mixed income housing on 2 or 3 floors above the ground floor retail. That's my vision. I would like to hear what the community wants, and we can kind of refine that and then go to market, find somebody to build that for us. We are acquiring this property using TIF funds, so this is not money coming out of anybody's property tax bill unless you're a property owner in that main Dempster TIF, in which case those funds are set aside explicitly for this purpose. And by acquiring this property, redeveloping it, it will become a much more viable economic asset to the DIF district. Right now, the property's total tax bill is about $30,000 a year, which is not nothing, but not nearly as much as it could be if it were a better development. For example, the Tapestry Station across the street, their total tax bill is probably 10 times that on an annual basis. I asked Manager Zelmazak, Economic Development Manager Zelmazak, to come up with some numbers. Paul, I'm not sure if you have firm numbers to share, but I'll invite you to at least shed some context onto the potential economic benefit of a new development in this location. And right now, there's enough money in the TIF fund to acquire this property and do the demolition, which we would want to do just to keep it safe. And then the TIF fund, the beauty of the TIF fund is it gets replenished every year with tax revenue coming in from the properties in that district. And we have not yet seen the big bump to the TIF balance that is going to be, that's coming when Tapestry Station starts paying their tax bills, and that money works its way into the TIF district. And then a few years later, an even bigger chunk of TIF revenue coming from the Custer Street development. So this is it's an investment in the community. It's an investment in the neighborhood, and I regard this as a fairly low-risk investment with a pretty high upside. It's low risk because worst case scenario, we turn around and sell the property and somebody builds it and we deal with that. We wouldn't be able to control its destiny in that case, and it would only be that, that smaller parcel wouldn't be combined with the bigger parcels. That's not an optimal outcome here, but even if that did happen, it would eventually be redeveloped and start to generate more tax revenue, which would offset the expense of acquiring the property. So that's the worst case kind of backstop scenario. The upside here is the significant tax revenue is two things. It's the tax revenue that this will generate for the TIF, but it's also, and maybe even more importantly, the affordable housing that we're talking about. And we are still in the process of reconsidering our city council goals, but economic development is going to continue to be a goal. This one checks that box. Affordable housing or housing affordability, whatever we end up calling it, that's going to continue to be a goal. This acquisition meets that high level objective. As well as the finance goal of generating more tax revenue for initially the TIF and eventually the community at large. So I hope I have made an adequate case in favor of purchasing this property, convince folks who were on the fence that it is a good idea. And with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Zalmazak to address my questions about the TIF.
And then, Paul, just real quick, I just, it's not worth arguing about, but TIF money is not magic money. It is diverted from every other taxing body and covered by taxpayers outside of the TIF.
Correct. Good evening, members of the Administration and Public Works Committee. So I think when we talk about TIF, sometimes we reference it as it's coming out of the TIF, so it's relatively easy. It is still taxpayer dollar. I don't think anybody believes otherwise. It is specifically allocated for redevelopment in that district. So it is public dollars. It needs everybody's kind of overlook, and we need community input on how we spend it. There's no question. The alternative to that is shutting the TIFs down and having the money just flow to all the to all the taxing entities. But there was a reason to create this TIF. And at the time we created it, it was primarily set up to address the Main Street infrastructure that is now complete. And then there were some opportunities around the train station for kind of densifying development to make the business district a little more viable.
Okay, sorry, and I believe Councilmember Newsom has questions for you.
Thank you. You asked if I had a chance to model what the 801 Main Street property would generate. I have not done that, only because we don't know what it would be. It could be, because of the range of options that I spelled out in the packet, it may just be a commercial property, or as it is, or maybe expanded onto the city's property, or even in partnership with the building to the north. But if we make some assumptions just from a modeling perspective, and I don't want to get too carried away on this, I just want to give an example. The Main and Chicago building, that new apartment building, if we applied what their kind of current assessed value is and compare that to what the frozen value is in the TIF when we created it, I'm going to give an example. The Tapestry Station building on the former Vogue site, that has a potential, we don't know yet, but we'll know in the fall, of generating approximately $700,000 a year. So just use that as your scale. That's like 120 units. So if you divided 718 by 120 to come up with a per unit revenue for the TIF, that's what 801 would likely generate.
So
Somewhere in that range.
$700,000 increment from Tapestry Station.
Correct. That's the example.
And so what, just to be clear, I'm not envisioning something the size and scope and scale of Tapestry Station across the street at 801. Maybe it's a quarter of the size.
Right.
Right.
So then it's a quarter of the
Right, so it's
718.
this rough numbers, $150,000 increment, $200,000 increment.
Right. You're probably not going to build something that's less than 60 units, though, right? So let's predict
Right.
that, right? So half that, 350.
We don't know exactly because we
Correct.
don't know exactly what we're going to build because we want to get some public.
But we're not
input on
building anything. I want to
that. Yeah, but I,
So, and really briefly, we could talk about that. The process, as I outlined in the memo, in the staff report, is what we imagine through the Putting Assets to Work program, right? So we have an engagement process that Councilmember Newsman would lead, perhaps in partnership with the Putting Assets to Work team or with staff. We put in an RFQ. We get a developer or get a series of developers to propose on what we're seeking, and then we go through a zoning process, approve it, and then.
right, so we're not owning this property long-term. We're temporarily acquiring it so we can package it with adjacent property and find somebody else to build on their dollar what we want them.
Right. Depending on what the workload is for the community development department, the typical, call it development process from the time a property is acquired until they break ground development tends to be about 18 months. The actual plan development process, it all depends on what the workload is, but 6 months, 9 months, that's what we would expect.
And so the idea.
We are not selling the property to a developer until they have the zoning. They will not sign a contract until they know what they can build.
Right. And the idea of the upfront community engagement, get a sense of what is going to be acceptable in the community so that when it does come to the entitlement phase, it's going to be easier for the development because the community is already behind it.
That sounds right.
And we intend to do that without engaging any additional consultants. We've already got Putting Assets to Work. They're paid for with some grant money.
I have an email from you, Paul, where you said, okay.
Or hold on. Why don't we do it this way?
I think I'm probably over my limit now, so I'll rest for now.
Okay. Councilmember Davis, and then
My question is, I want to address it.
Yeah.
So I emailed you and I asked if we could use Putting Assets to Work to use the consultants for this
Yes.
project, and you said no.
Okay, no, I'll explain how this will work. We can't use the Putting Assets to Work, the $900,000 grant we have from the U.S. Department of Transportation, because that's specific for the 3 properties in the plan that's outlined in that grant application. But we can use that team in a different way to do the engagement process, but it's not part of the $900,000.
Okay.
so that's out of pocket addition to the contract, right?
Okay, I don't know how we would, like, the negotiation with the Putting Assets to Work team could be a developer fee at the end, so we're not actually paying any money out, or we, as part of the planning process, planning dollars, the TIF does cover planning dollars as, it's an eligible expense.
Okay, but it's not part of our meal plan on the $900,000
Correct.
Putting Assets to Work.
Just to be very clear, the U.S. Department of Transportation has very strict guidelines on how we can spend the 900,000.
Okay. Is that all you have?
That was all I had for Paul. I have other questions and comments.
All right. Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
That was next. Oh, you mean for Paul?
Or just generally, Councilmember?
Oh, okay. No, I have a lot more to say.
Yeah, if you, do you want to keep
Yeah,
going?
so the first thing I wanted to say to other council members, but also people who are listening, is that when I pushed this for reconsideration, it had very little to do with most of the things that were discussed before. The person who owns this property is not at all willing to maintain the property. We have done fines. Obviously, as you know, we've sued. We have requested. The property is dilapidated. And so the real problem, the crux of the problem here is that they are not going to do anything with the property, and it's currently a hotbed for, crime. There are people, it is a hazard, in addition to the fact that there are people breaking in. There's health issues with the building and everything of that nature. And so, yes, the property was on the market for a year at a very high inflated price, but simply because the way that the private market and real estate works is that there were no financial incentives for this person to do anything with the property. Yes, $30,000 a year is kind of a lot, but at the same time, it's nothing if you want to sit on the property and just kind of wait until you feel like doing something with it. And so my problem with this property is that it is not being utilized in any type of way. It is becoming a blight to our community, and the the owner is unwilling to sell, and we're basically coercing them. Our choices were to try to get them to fix up the property and maintain it, and they refused. And so now our next choice is to buy the property, to get it out of their hands and get it into someone else's hands. I am not necessarily endorsing the idea that we decide what to do with the property or have any strict stipulations on what we do with it. What we're voting on today, and what I understand us to be voting on today, is if we're going to buy the property. Now, whether or not we buy it and immediately sell it on the free market is something that I think that we can discuss today. What I intended to do during our conversation today is to say, 100%, we're not hiring. When I make my amendment, it will be no consultants. I'm not willing to pay extra money for people to decide what to do with this property. If we want to engage in the community and ask basic questions, I think that we should lean more towards there. So I'll tell you, in my short time in being involved in the city, if a developer came in and said they wanted to put a 50-story building here, I promise you everyone in the area would be upset. And there are basic restrictions that I think that we can impose, that we can get from the community to get an idea of what everyone wants. So if we want to come in and say, we know for sure the community is going to push back on 10 stories, 20 stories, and what our height minimum is, I don't think it's unreasonable for us to buy the property and then say, when we sell it or we find a developer, hey, this is the property, height restriction, just so you know, we're looking for someone who's building a building 5 stories or less. And that is the extent of what I'd like to do with it. What I will be proposing today is that we have no consultants and that we have a timeline on how long we're going to own this building. And so I do ask other city council members if they want to just do a suggestion of how long we can discuss it. I was intending to impose 12 months of us discussing what to do with the property. If we want to do some type of RFP or whatever else happens in that regard, but I kind of wanted us to dispose of it pretty quickly because we do have a housing crisis. It is ridiculous for us to try to pretend as if this property is unvaluable or unsellable. The real crux of the problem is that the landowner did not want to do anything with it and was unwilling to do anything with it. And we have no other options to get this property contributing to our society meaningfully without doing this step. So again, the vote today is mostly on buying it. As to whether or not we do these other steps, those are still things that we still have to vote on and still questions that I think are open. It's not guaranteed at this point in time. And so I will ask if any other city council members have any opinions on the 2 amendments that I'm suggesting. I'm open for discussion.
Wait, did you actually make amendments or suggest amendments?
We
That's
can
what I was
continue
gonna-
discussion and then I'll make the amendment later. Yeah. I mean, I guess I can make it now. Yeah, I
Well,
move
or-
to.
Hold on. Well, why don't we, it's your time, but Councilmember Kelly had her light on. Why don't we let
She can
her
go first.
do that thing, then we'll get into the potential amendments. Councilmember Kelly.
Okay, thank you. So I appreciate that, and I might consider that, though I'm not at all convinced that we in any way have coerced or exhausted the possibilities to have this building get sold. From what I see, there are very few inspections, very few violations. We have the option to impose fines daily. We have not exhausted. This was very short. This was, like you say, this was barely on the market, and for an exorbitant price. So, and then we issued a few fines, and the city voluntarily dismissed its lawsuit in order to move forward with this purchase, which we haven't approved of yet. So I'm entirely in favor of things like a land trust. I'll be the first to jump on board if I knew specifically where we were going with this. But this is all incredibly vague. And I do, concur with one of the residents' public comments that it feels once again, like we're quickly letting a property owner off the hook. Now, I want to see that property also improved, But I don't think we really did exhaust the measures available to us. So that's what concerns me. I would love to see this used for, love to see affordable units, love to see some interesting retail there. So I'm about that, but I feel like we've jumped on this really quickly. And it's a lot of money, and it's going to be at least a year, it says here, off the tax. I know that's, minimal, the tax rolls, but still that is more money. It's going to be off the tax rolls while there's all these, community conversations. We have to pay for demolition. So it's costly to residents. And I'm not 100% convinced that we're proceeding in the most financially responsible way. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Nusma and then Councilmember Davis, you can decide what you want to do.
Yeah, I am hearing what Councilmember Davis is saying, and I agree, we don't want to hold on to this for very long, and I don't want to spend money, trying to figure out what to do with it. You're proposing amendments. I'm not sure exactly what those would look like, so maybe this is a question for Corporation Counsel. Councilmember Davis is raising some concerns, which I feel are reasonable. What is the best way for those concerns to be accommodated? Is that through an amendment to the motion on the floor, or is this separate kind of direction to staff? Does that, I hope you think that's helpful.
Thank you, Councilmember Nusma. That's a great question. I think it can be handled either way. We can include these requests for amendments within the resolution, or it can be directed to staff with follow-up at certain criteria.
So I think our practice has been, if it's an amendment to the resolution, that would have to be put in writing so we know exactly what it is we're voting for. That's a little bit more of a procedural structure than simply hearing what Councilmember Davis is saying, getting consensus of the committee and providing direction for staff. So that would seem to me to be the most expeditious way to get through this.
All right, Councilmember Davis.
So we do have to put them in writing now?
So the chair can require that or not require that. I would say that the mayor for city council would require it in writing, but it would be up to Chair Suffredin.
I think on something this expensive, we should probably put it in writing.
Okay.
I mean, you're gonna have to do it anyway. We're 10 minutes over. I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot and turn it into a speed typing thing, but if
What I might suggest then is that we make that amendment when this comes to council.
well, we haven't
Because
established that it's going to council. I think this amendment
if it doesn't go to
has a
council,
lot
then
to
what's
do
the
with
point?
that. Well, I think I'd like to see what's in this amendment. I think that is an important component of whether or not this goes to council. So do you want to reduce it to writing
It gives you a little bit more time to.
and we can,
So you're saying I can put it in writing for when we get to council? Like,
Well,
but not
I
right
think-
now?
If it moves to council, do you have
Okay.
between now and when this comes up at council to put your thoughts into writing?
what,
We meet again in 2 weeks, so I guess I'll just put it in writing and we'll just.
No, I mean, later tonight.
well, okay, here's what I would suggest. You, if you're comfortable, start typing this.
Okay.
Councilmember Kelly has her light on. We'll continue this discussion, but I think it should be amended here rather than at council.
Okay.
So best of luck. Councilmember Kelly.
I just want to add, I appreciate the public comments about, wanting to purchase this. If there was a commitment to land bank, but there's really, and, I'm with you all in terms of wanting affordable housing, but there's no concrete commitment in this. And that's why I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Okay. Paul, or sorry. So one of the concerns expressed is the condition of the building.
Yes.
What is your contemplated timeline for demolition if the city acquires it?
Thank you for asking that. So I was hoping that would be one of the directions that comes from the committee. There's two ways that we could secure the property. We could fence it off for a period of time until we sell it. I think that's the least preferred recommendation. I think we could quickly, it would cost around $50,000 to demolish it. with a local demo contractor, and we could do that within a matter of weeks.
Okay, and that would likely diminish our liability if we were to acquire this property substantially.
I would ask Council Ruggie, but yes.
Okay.
And also increase its marketability, with the potential partner.
It would be like shovel-ready kind of project, right, if we demolished it. What I was asking Director Flax about was what the anticipated kind of base level of affordable units that would be required there, and my understanding is it's 30% of the units. Why don't we just take care of that right now, so that's also part of what we resolve?
Excuse me, Sarah Flax, Community Development Director. IHO says 15%, but if there's any reduction in price off of the fair market value, for example, which sometimes you can use to get a 30% requirement in a case like this. So that would be a consideration.
Okay. And let me present a hypothetical. We acquire it, we demolish it, so it's shovel ready. Someone comes in and makes us an offer substantially more than what we paid for it. What would be the process for council considering that?
I can answer that, Chair. So the city code requires that any sale of property be done by ordinance. So we would follow an ordinance. We would give out notice to the neighbors, and then we would publish it that we are going to sell it. That would come to council for 2 readings, and then it would come back with another ordinance to approve the sale.
Right. But is city staff obligated to inform council of any offers to purchase the property?
Yes.
So all of these potential things could be wiped out if somebody comes and offers us substantially more than we paid for it and the council decides to take that offer.
Right. So what we're going to recommend is not just listing it for sale and getting bids on the property, but there would be an RFQ process that we would request. We'll have to draft this, right? I don't know right offhand how it'll look, but we want to make sure it's going to deliver what we learned through the community process with some level of affordability, unless we get offers that are 100% market rate. And again, that's something I guess the council could debate, but we have city land that we're also talking about. Well, first of all, the laundromat would be city land at that point, but also the parking lot.
Yeah.
So I think out of the community process, I predict that there will be some demand for affordable housing. I think it's one of the reasons we're doing it, so we should expect that. And yeah, you'll have the opportunity to weigh in on.
But the inclusionary housing ordinance would get us affordable housing no matter what. I'm saying perhaps the reason that this hasn't sold is there are a lot of potential reasons. Someone doesn't want to demolish it. They find dealing with the seller to be difficult. If we acquire this asset and improve it by demolishing the building, it's possible that we would have somebody approach us and offer us more than we paid, and we'd have an obligation to consider that.
That's fair for just the commercial property, right? But if we wanted to do something bigger by combining it with our parking lot to have a larger impact, then it's different.
Yeah.
Right? If somebody just wanted to buy it to turn it into another commercial property,
Sure. We'd have to entertain that.
fair, we'll do that, yeah.
All right, Councilmember Kelly and then Councilmember Nusma.
How long was it on the market?
I don't recall. It's been on and off it's been partially vacant for a number of years at this point, but.
It actually listed on the market? Was it listed
Yeah,
publicly or privately?
I can find out before council
Okay.
or try to figure out I have to communicate on that with the broker. I don't recall.
Okay. Thank you. I think that was my only question. Oh, and in terms of violations, how many? It looked like from what I saw, just 2. It looked like there were 2 and, okay. All right, thank you.
All right, and we're in receipt of Councilmember Davis's proposed amendment. I'll read it out loud, and you would move this, and someone would second it. All right, so the amendment is no consultants are to be hired, and if the property is not disposed of or an RFP is not accepted within 6 months, then the property is to be sold on the open free market. Is that a motion?
That is my motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I like the idea. I'm on board with the concept. I just want to make sure we're not limiting ourselves to, and if 6 months might be a little bit tight. So that's a question for Paul.
So I think it's doable. I'm trying to remember what the ordinance for selling city-owned property, the publishing requirements, I'll have to look those up. There are some, it takes a little bit of time. You have to publish it in a local newspaper. You have to come to the council 2 times with ordinances. So there are things like that, but we could be very close to that. And I think Sarah and I have teamed up on issuing RFPs and RFQs for properties. Again, 504 South Boulevard is going to be a good project someday. The process itself is not reflective of what we could accomplish on Main Street. That process has taken years. This will pretty straightforward. I think we could do it in 6 months.
So 6 months is okay. And the motion says RFP. You've been saying RFQ.
I think we should go with an RFQ. I think it's somewhat interchangeable, but the RFQ, we're going to try to find somebody that has the qualifications to deliver what the community through your process will want to achieve. And that's how we set up the putting assets to work plan, is we want to do more RFQs. So we're not just having these series of bids, because at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that initial bid, so to speak, on the RFP design, it often changes at the end. So it ends up not being genuine.
So maybe a friendly amendment, to strike RFP and replace it with RFQ.
I just sent an email where it says RFP or RFQ, but
That's better.
Great.
All right, so we're clear.
And you're saying 6 months is going to be fine. I'm still a little bit nervous if, maybe we want to say the RFQ should be issued within 6 months, what gives us a little bit more time to finalize it.
Well, I would ask you, like, what timeline you have. It's summer for community engagement process. Are we able to
Maybe we
engage?
should do that fairly quickly.
Right.
If you're telling me 6 months is fine, I can live with that.
I would like more time, but if 6 months is a timeline, I'll work with it. It's an important project.
Councilmember Harris has wanted to weigh in here.
Yeah, Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. Would you be open to a friendly amendment of a year? If we get it done earlier, we get it done, but I don't want us to move quickly and miss opportunity.
I feel like I've said enough and I need other city council members to weigh in.
I would be more comfortable giving ourselves more time. Not that I want to take it, but
Help me understand what opportunity we would potentially miss by doing it in 6 months rather than a year.
If
haste makes waste. Like,
right,
no,
well, there's. I know what I can handle on with my workload. I'm just sharing my workload. I can't speak for other departments or other partners who I would have on my team to do this. If we're bringing in affordable housing team members, I would have to ask my colleague, Director Flax, to weigh in on the timeline. If I'm doing this 100% on my own, it's an aggressive timeline. But
Yeah, and it requires acceptance. I mean, maybe there's more to be done. It has to be issued in a aggressive timeline, and then, or it's your thing. You tell me what you think.
I appreciate the offer of giving more time, but not saying take it, but just not make the end date at 6 months. I think that's really very quick and kind of risky because we have a lot of other stuff going on. And also, I just wanted to, Councilmember Kelly, you asked about the number of violations, and I didn't have the document open, but I did want to point out it's not so much the number of violations. We literally declared this building a dangerous building. It's structurally unsound, so it really has some major, major problems. I just wanted to make that clear.
No, I understand that. Okay. And it was a limited number of inspections, and we could have fined them daily. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Kelly, you had your light on?
Oh, I just, I'm for a shorter time frame only because this is a lot of money. It's coming off the tax rolls, so I'm comfortable. I think extending to a full year feels like we're pushing it out a little too much.
Okay, well, Councilmember Davis, it is your,
I'm keeping it 6 months if no one's going to second Chrissy's amendment. If it's friendly, does that mean I have to second it?
well, no, your amendment was 1 year, right? Was your, yeah, I mean, you don't have to accept it, but if you do, we can, or you don't have, you do what you want to do, but we're going to do one vote. It'll either be on the 6 month or on the 12 month.
I'm going to keep it at 6 months.
Another way of maybe accommodating Councilmember Harris's and my concern is to not require the RFP to be accepted within 6 months, or RFQ, but to require that to be released within 6 months. Like that puts the city on the hook to do what we have to do sooner rather than later. But then the market has some additional time to reply to the RFQ.
Mr. Zalmazak.
Thank you. Could we have it set up where we're coming to the council with the recommendation with the RFQs in 6 months? Would that be satisfactory? Because then,
Look, I'm just going to read the room. I don't think the vibe's there. I think we're going to get 6 months, and I think that's where the vote's going to go. I think we can actually just skip to the 6 months instead of like doing a weird back and forth where no one wants to say it
Yeah.
explicitly.
All right, I mean, it's been moved and seconded and discussed. Should we just go ahead and vote on it?
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Harris,
No.
Councilmember Nusma,
No.
Councilmember Suffredin.
Aye. All right, so that is on the amendment.
That's on the amendment.
Does anybody want to further discuss the underlying?
I do want to just add one point of information, which is to point out that this acquisition was discussed by the city council in executive session on February 10th of this year. Granted, that was the previous city council, but 4 of the 5 members of this committee were in that room. There were no objections at that time to pursuing this course of action. And at that meeting, staff was directed to do what staff did, which is negotiate with the property owner. And staff is now coming back to us with the results of this negotiation, asking us to take the public vote to approve this purchase. So we are entirely consistent in approving this purchase with what previous council said on February 10th.
Okay, that's Councilmember Kelly.
So I just want to say that what happens in executive session are not final decisions, and to suggest that that decision was made is to suggest that what we do here is performative. And so I think that's very important, that these deliberations happen publicly. Thank you.
All right, let's vote on the motion as amended on the purchase of 801 Main Street.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
We already voted on the amendment, right?
Yes. the amendment.
Okay, then on the, no.
Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Nusma,
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin.
Aye. On a vote of 4 to 1, the item as amended will be favorably reported to the city council. That brings us to item A9, which was pulled off, and I assume we'll have much less conversation. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, I will move item A9, Resolution 56R25, approval of a contract award to UNA Solutions for citywide cashiering services.
Is it?
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Nusma, second by Councilmember Harris. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, so I pulled this off. I don't know who can talk on this decision, but the vendor we went with was not the top ranked one, and they were twice as expensive as the top ranked one according to the RFP score. So I just want to know why we went with this.
Good evening, Clayton Black, Deputy Chief Financial Officer. So we went through a competitive RFP process. We evaluated the proposals, and then we did interviews as well. So while the top scoring vendor, it came in at a lower cost, upon looking at their tool through the demonstration that they provided, they really didn't have some of the integration experience with many of the partners that we use at the city. You'll see that their annual cost was computer's not loaded, but 30-something thousand compared to the 70,000. And also as part of this, we're passing along a credit card fee to our customers. This was something that we've talked about in the past, so this allows us to do that. EUNA's credit card fee is 2.23%, so it was a lower credit card fee, so lower impact to customers as well. So that's why we went with them. The EUNA product, we have more experience working with them. We implemented a new payment kiosk at Robert Crown with EUNA last year. They're local to the city. And after demoing the product with them, we really felt they had a better product that better fit the city's needs and our residents' needs than the top scoring vendor.
How long have you worked with UNA?
We started 18 months. So we worked with them on that payment kiosk project 18 months ago. And it integrated really, really well with Passport, which is for our parking citations, and with Truebill for water billing. So we have that great track record with them, and it seemed like a good fit.
Do you know how long the credit card fee is static for? How long until they can change the rate?
It's a 3-year contract, so we're locking in that rate for 3 years.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, why don't we vote on this one?
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma. Councilmember Suffredin.
Aye. On a vote of 5-0, item A9 passes. That brings us to adjournment. Why don't we adjourn? And we'll set up P&D in 2 minutes, 6:31.